Ignatius of Loyola was a nobleman, a proud, arrogant, vain one.
He was a kind of a rounder as a younger man. He got into fights and he had his troubles with women, and so he was certainly not a saint in those days. He was in France, and Spain and France were in a battle, and he ended up with a wound from a cannonball that broke his leg.
It shattered his dreams, his future, his career. And he ended up recovering in his castle, hoping to read the romantic novels of his formation period in the castle in Spain of Charles V. And instead he was brought a life of the saints and a life of Christ.
And he decided at that point that he wanted to change the direction of his life and follow Jesus.
He said, I want to do what St. Francis of Assisi did. I want to do what St. Dominic did. So he was inspired by the saints, and that was really the beginning of his conversion into what he became later.
And during this period, this first period after his conversion, when he was reflecting on his life, he had some overwhelming religious experiences. So he tended to jot those down in a book to help him recall these experiences, and then putting them in a format that could be published and used by others so that he could lead others into similar experiences as he was having. And that's what we call the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius.
Since he was a soldier, he understood that if one lacked strength, stamina, and endurance, physical exercise would be great. What he discovered is, what if I lack strength, stamina, and endurance spiritually? There are spiritual exercises that one can do to help me grow. He called it spiritual freedom.
That one of the things that comes out of the exercises is what St. Ignatius calls the daily examine. It's to discover there how has God been present to me, and how did I respond to that? How was I excited about it? Was I repelled by it? How can I discover how God is present there?
Ignatian spirituality then flows from the spiritual exercises so that a person can grow in what Ignatius called finding intimacy with God in all things.
So his heart of his spirituality is recognizing, first of all, how much God has loved you personally, and how much God has shown that love to you through the gift of creation, the gift of the people in your life, the gift of your own talents, the gift of your own faith, and having discovered that, to share it with others in gratitude for God having given it to you.
The presumption there is that God is present to you and me. God is present to us. And how do I come in contact with that presence of God?
He wrote them for people who would be able to make a 30-day, one-on-one, silent retreat, alone, away from the world. But he said not everybody can do that, and so he adapted them so people could make them in various forms. And so the weekend retreat, Thursday to Sunday, that's preached and gives people an opportunity to get away, an opportunity to reflect on the themes of the exercises, on the movements of the exercises, is a powerful experience of what Ignatius is trying to do in the exercises, is give a person an opportunity to experience himself or herself as a person in relationship with a loving Jesus.
Basically the same way that Ignatius reflected on it when he composed his book of the spiritual exercises, pulling together all the experiences that he had had in prayer. And these spiritual exercises, which we call them, are divided into the 4 weeks. And that first week has to do with your past life, looking how much God has done for you, and then looking to see how you have responded, especially to your lack of response and to your sin.
So then the second week begins, I like to think of it as Jesus is on center stage. So the first part of the second week deals with the hidden life of the birth of Jesus, the hidden life of Jesus, and then his going out in ministry, inviting the the apostles to be with him. And then the third week is about his passion and death. So it's that, as we would read it in the gospel, it's a kind of a small part of what the whole gospel is about. And then finally the fourth week is about the resurrection of Jesus.
The retreat is an attempt to reorganize and reorient our life to fulfill our final end of praising, loving, and serving God. To put that first and then put everything else in relationship to that. And most of us need that time to stand back and reflect in our life and to reorient our life to live it the way God calls us to live.
Trust how powerful the experience has been in the lives of others. Ask yourself what you really need. And I think each of us will discover in ourselves that we need to be alone with the Lord. And of course, any of us might be a little apprehensive about that, but falling into the hands of a loving God is a joy that people experience and love. And that's why so many people make these retreats annually, because they did have a powerful experience and they want to sustain that, be renewed in it each year.
He's a great model for lay people, because many of us get caught up in our own environment in which we're working, and that environment is often very secular, and it takes something to shake us out of that environment and to look at the goals of our life and to see if they're really being honest to why we're here on earth, to love and serve God and our neighbor. And Ignatius is a perfect example. He woke up when he was 30 years old.